Hello everyone, this is Aaron Fitch from ATF Gaming and welcome back to the ATF NASCAR Weekly Review. Today we are going to discuss the weekend happenings at Phoenix, which is now known as ISM Raceway. I'm probably never going to call it that, and I'm sorry, but we're just going to call it Phoenix for now. We had a doubleheader Xfinity and Cup both at ISM Raceway, and yeah, not much happened. Being perfectly honest, not much happened. But let's start with the Xfinity race. Justin Allgaier qualified on pole. Brad Keselowski second, Cole Custer third, Christopher Bell fourth, and Kyle Busch fifth. Custer had to go to the rear of the field, so unfortunately he did not get to cash in on that good qualifying effort. Not much happened in stage one. The only caution besides the stage end was David Starr blowing an engine. Justin Allgaier did end up winning stage one, but it was a tough battle between him and Brad Keselowski. Keselowski was underneath Allgaier trying to pass and ended up getting loose on the bottom, got into Allgaier, and Keselowski lost it a little bit. Allgaier managed to keep it straight and won stage one. Christopher Bell second, Keselowski ended up finishing third, Kyle Busch fourth, and Daniel Hemrick fifth. Now, throughout all of stage one, I was noticing on the TV broadcast that, there had been slight raindrops on the camera. I originally, was thinking, they hadn't talked about rain the entire time, so I was thinking maybe it was just oil or fluid leaking from when David Starr blew up that got on the camera, but it ended up turning out that it had kind of been a steady drizzle at the track throughout the entirety of stage one, which I was rather surprised to hear. I've never really heard of NASCAR, racing through a drizzle like that throughout the entire stage, but they did it. There really wasn't that many issues, but some people started thinking maybe Keselowski getting loose on the bottom was because of the rain, but otherwise, so they did bring the cars down pit road for a red flag after stage one. It was about an hour and a half, maybe longer than that. That's about what I remember it being. They started back up. Matt Mills is his name, right? Right, yeah. Matt Mills hit the wall with about 7 laps to go in stage two. So they brought the caution out, and this was kind of where a weird sequence of events happened. With 7 laps to go, so they had pit stops. About half the field pitted, and half the field was, I'll race for the stage points and then pit at the end of the stage. The other half was, I'll get a little bit of an advantage. So half the field pitted, and then after that, NASCAR decided to bring out the red flag for rain again after everybody had pitted or half the field had pitted already. So I found that a little strange. They red flagged the race with 3 laps to go, and ended up, once they started again, it was about a half-hour delay, probably. Started up again, they had a 1-lap shootout, and I personally am not a huge fan of the 1-lap shootouts at a short track. Mile and a half's restricted play, kind of. Road courses, it definitely works, but I'm not a huge fan of that. But it was a 1-lap shootout. Kyle Busch ended up winning stage two. Daniel Hemrick second, Cole Custer third, Jamie McMurray in his first Xfinity race in almost 5 years, fourth, and Ryan Truex fifth. And then stage three was green all the way. No real issues there. Brad Keselowski did end up winning the race. Justin Allgaier second. He was catching though. If Allgaier had maybe 5 more laps, I think he might have been able to race Keselowski for the win. Kyle Busch third, Christopher Bell fourth, and Jamie McMurray ended up rounding out the top 5. And really, that's all I have to talk about the Xfinity race. We got the Cup race next. Martin Truex Jr. was on the pole, Kyle Larson second, Chase Elliott third, Alex Bowman with an excellent qualifying effort in fourth, and Joey Logano fifth. The first caution of the day was brought out by none other than Corey LaJoie, because Corey LaJoie always brings out cautions when he's racing. He blew an engine, though, so it's not his fault, but it's kind of a running gag in my household when I'm watching the race with other family members, that every single time Corey LaJoie's in a race, it seems like he brings out a caution. And it's always like the first caution, too. But yeah, so of course it would be Corey LaJoy, and so they cleaned up after that, and then they ran to the end of stage one. Kyle Busch won stage one, Kevin Harvick second, Kyle Larson third, Denny Hamlin fourth, and Truex fell to fifth after starting on the pole. The next caution was for Kyle Larson. It was about halfway through stage two. Kyle Larson, I don't remember where he was running at the time, but he just spun. It wasn't a flat tire. It didn't look like he got super loose. He just spun, and it was by himself, no contact with anybody else. They threw the caution. I personally didn't think they should have thrown the caution for that, but they threw the caution for it. Pit stops and all that, and then they got restarted again, and then Chris Buescher caused another caution with about 5 laps to go in the stage. So that sets up yet another one-lap shootout for the end of stage two. So it was mixed strategy. About 75% of the lead lap cars ended up pitting, but there were cars in the back who decided to stay out or do 2 tires, but mostly stay out. So stage 2 ended up being a bunch of guys who had not been running up front, with some exceptions. But Kurt Busch ended up winning stage 2. So good for him. Brad Keselowski did finish second, but he had not been running good at all in this race. So he pulled the strategy there. Same with Ricky Stenhouse. He started in the back of the field because of a practice crash. Kyle Busch did end up 4th, and Michael McDowell finished 5th. So good for him in that stage. The only real thing that happened in stage 3, there was some back and forth with pit strategy because Paul Menard had a spin and he hit the wall, brought out a caution, and there was just kind of mixed strategy about whether it was split the rest of the race in half, or there were a couple guys who stayed out as long as they could trying to catch a caution, but nothing else really happened. No other cautions, and Kevin Harvick, he pulled it off again, 3rd win in a row now. Obviously, he had the win taken away from him, technically. I don't know how they're officially wording that, but at Las Vegas. But overall, he does have 3 wins in a row now, and he's firmly locked into the chase, even with all the playoff points taken away last week. Now he got his 2nd win as far as that goes, so he's in good shape now. He won. Kyle Busch ended up finishing 2nd, Chase Elliott 3rd, Denny Hamlin 4th, and Martin Truex Jr. 5th. The top 4, Harvick, Busch, Elliott, and Hamlin, they were having a really good fight right before the last pit stop, and then the pit stop started spreading them out a little bit. But overall, fairly uneventful race, honestly. There was some good racing for the lead, like I just mentioned, but overall, fairly uneventful race. The other thing I wanted to talk about, this kind of developed early on in the week. Matt DiBenedetto was kind of this good news story of this race. He had put out a social media message on Twitter. He has a huge following on social media, saying that the 32 car ended up being unsponsored for this race at Phoenix. So he was putting out a plea on social media, seeing if anybody could connect him with a sponsor and stuff like that. And then Denny Hamlin ended up starting a group of drivers that provided some secondary sponsorship. Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, I believe Darrell Waltrip, DW in the booth ended up sponsoring as well. And then they ended up finding a main primary sponsor, and from what it seemed like, maybe it could be a long-term deal, but that was a good news story. I just want to talk about that. I was super happy to see the good side of social media. Obviously, social media has a lot of bad sides, but it was nice to see him benefiting from social media like that. So that's all we're going to talk about today. It looks like we're going to be right at the 10-minute mark. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you want to see more content from ATF Gaming, be sure to hit that red subscribe button. It really means a lot to me, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.